Hey there, welcome to CNT Collectibles. I'm C. Hope you are doing well. All right, figure it's time to do a little chart blast here. We take a look at the price action of our favorite collectibles. Doesn't matter a whole lot what we think, it just matters about what the price is doing. And so we'll start off with the SCI 500. Downtrend is kind of continuing here, but we're carving out a little bit of a bottom here. So we'll see if those bottom calls come to fruition here. So we've had some flatlining in the past. Hasn't held. Now we're starting to round out just a little bit. So whether or not it's the bottom, you can just use this area as kind of your support, your marker, to just kind of get a gauge of is that the floor or not. If it breaks below that and hangs out there for a little bit with some activity, then it is not the bottom. If we're able to respect these lows, you've got this area right here that it seems to just kind of retest. If it is able to respect that and grind its way up, then the lows are in. So that's the kind of the nuts and bolts of this stuff here. You're just not going to know if it's the top or the bottom for the most consistently until after it's happened here. So let's start off with some baseball. Look at a few of the movers and shakers that are in that part of the market here. Set a dollar limit of a minimum of $50 in 10 transactions. So if there's really small cards that are moving, you're not going to catch them here, and there are a number of them. But we're just looking at rookie cards of players, and a couple of the ones that are interesting. Adrian Beltre, Scott Rowland, Dale Murphy, they have some relevance recently with Hall of Fame voting and all that kind of stuff. People are looking ahead a little bit to next year where Adrian Beltre should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But your biggest movers are some of the more recent guys here. Spencer Strider has a lot of activity in his cards. There's more of his cards, granted, than some of the other players here, but getting a little bit of love as we head into the season. He had a very, very prodigious rookie year. A lot of comparisons to some of the all-time greats and how he compared, and it's favorable. There's no question about it. We'll see if he is able to turn into one of those long-time greats, or if he's or if he fizzles out in a short period of time with pitchers. They're pretty volatile. It's difficult to see. So Fisk, Piazza, Jim Rice, a lot of the old-timers, a lot of safety in the vintage. Spencer Strider, again, your biggest mover recently. And Donnie Baseball, we'll take a look at. Anytime you throw Don Mattingly at me, I'm going to spend some time with that one here. So on the downside, down 20%, Alan Trammell, Paul Molitor, they share a similar card, so it makes sense that they're down for the most part. Steve Carlton, so there's no safety in the vintage guys, I guess. So Roger Maris, Hall of Famer Ted Simmons, Freddie Freeman is the modern player that's getting hit the most here, down 12%. His suite of cards here, a lot of activity on that. And Don Drysdale, player that it's a card that I'm kind of looking to pick up, and he's quite out of sight, out of mind. You can get some of the mid-grade 4s and 5s for pretty reasonable prices here. But Freddie Freeman taking on the chin that's your number one first baseman heading into the season, most likely. So that may be a mistake. We'll see. His play may correct that as the season gets going here. So football, John Elway, Calvin Johnson leading the charge, Charles Woodson, Russell Wilson, Travis Kelce, Bo Jackson also getting some double-digit love here. Travis Kelce heading into the Super Bowl, getting a little bit of respect here, which is nice to see. On the downside, Brock Purdy, the helium has come out of that one. Kyler Murray, Joey B with a lot of activity on his cards, and Franco Harris. All right, for basketball, Kyrie Irving, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, all-time great superstar, and Kevin Durant getting some love here. Kevin Durant on the move to Phoenix, and a big deal. Kyrie Irving on the move as well. So they're in the news cycle. And on the downside, really, we're just seeing a lot of low volume here, so that's actually a pretty decent sign. This is what I wanted to point out, not necessarily the players that are moving on the way down, but just the volume. So if we look at the volume on the upside, there's a lot of interest in a few players here. On the downside, not a lot of interest in the selling side of things here. And so when you have more buyers than sellers, that can lead to some higher prices, which is not a bad thing here. So, all right, hockey, Mark Messier, Elias Pettersson, and Tim Stützle on the way up. Timo Meyer and Sebastian Aho, double digits. And on the way down, Jason Robertson and Mario Lemieux down double digits. And so I wanted to take a look at some of those hockey names, but I don't recognize a lot of the ones, and so we're just going to look at some of the big time guys when we get to that part of the program. All right, resize my window and let's get into it here. Start off with baseball. Mike Trout, downtrend broken. We highlighted this a few weeks ago, retest, and struggling to get above that 1.8 thousand area here, sitting at about $1,600, so getting rejected. So we've got a slight uptrend here. So at least the downtrend is terminated for now. So as long as we can hang out in this range, we can grind slowly upwards. So again, I think if people are looking for cards to rocket back up, I mean, even if the bottom's in, doesn't mean they're going to come roaring back or anything like that. And so could have a gradual decline as buyers start to come back in here. Baseball season, if he does well, then that could push things up a little bit more rapidly. But right now, gentle uptrend. So at least we can say, all right, for now, downtrend is over. So. All right, Julio Rodriguez. He is, Juan Soto. I'm skipping ahead a little bit. Spoiler alert. All right, Juan Soto, pink refractor in a PSA 10. Round tripping itself had a nice run, and now it's come back into an area of a lot of congestion here. So $450 is kind of your low point, sitting at $566. There's upside maybe to that $670, $700 area or something like that. So we'll see. Downtrend is still intact here, but again, we've got a gentle slope here, and there's been a lot of buying in this area. So this may be a card if you are looking for. If you're patient, maybe you see 450 again or something like that. But if it breaks out, maybe a little bit off to the races, especially if he gets off to a hot start, which not something that he's really done for the regular season. All right, now Julio Rodriguez, and so getting some love as of late here. A lot of it in the late part of the season, and took a little bit of a breather, but now we started to get back on the track. And just watching some of his other auctions, the Topps Gilded and the Logo Fractor, some of the more and the regular short prints. He's really getting a ton of hype here. The Gilded prices went from like $700 up to like $1,200 in the matter of just a few auctions, and so they're more limited, and so it doesn't take much to get those prices going. But I would just say this: at this point, it's the speculation season. A lot of people are going to start talking about players and what kind of year they would have, and Julio Rodriguez projects to be a pretty darn good player, and we know that already. But we have to put this into a little bit of context. If he is going to be the way he's priced right now, this is a guy that's well on a Hall of Fame track, and he's got 1 year under his belt, and so it was a really terrific year. He could keep it going. But what we're looking for is if that is the case, is he going to put up 12 years of 4 wins, 5 wins, uninterrupted to make that Hall of Fame case? And so it seems unlikely that at some point that he wouldn't have an injury. Hope not, obviously, or some sort of slump to really take him to really derail him, or even and not derail him long term. Anything that just to bring him out of sight, out of mind. But you could also have, someone coming up in a couple of years like a Drew Jones to take some of the shine off of him and some of the attention away from him. So all I'm saying is, this seems like a reasonable time to buy kind of in this cluster here. But I think if you wait, and you'd have to be pretty patient, I mean, there may be some better buying opportunities down the road. So should something kind of go a little bit awry. So especially now on a lot of those shorter printed stuff, I don't know. It just seems like let the rubber hit the road and see what happens. You may miss. Maybe he has a repeat season, puts up 6-7 wins, and doesn't look back. And then it's what are you going to do? But at some point, it seems like the odds are something happens that we get a little bit better crack at some of those nicer J-Rod cards here. So Spencer Strider, another player that is getting some love, although this chart doesn't really reflect it. That's a suite of cards here, but this is the rookie refractor, numbered to 489 in the raw. So that's about as good a price as you can get. And he projects to be a pretty good pitcher this year. That Atlanta staff could be pretty darn good here. Kyle Tucker, next week, I may make my case that this is your... at least in certain formats, your number one player in fantasy. So we shall see here. He doesn't get a lot of love. There's a lot of cards out there, and so it's difficult to get everything going at once here. But this is Chrome Sapphire rookie auto in a raw. It's kind of hung around that $90 area for a long time. Got a little pop towards the end of last year, but it's come down to an area where it's kind of interesting if that's what you're looking for. But again, this is a guy that's not going to lead in any specific category. He's not going to be a batting leader, not going to be a home run leader, but he does everything really, really well and could wind up to being a top 10 player at the end of the year. And if you think back a couple of years ago, Shohei Ohtani, who thought he was going to be an MVP, and he was. Beginning of last year, did people really think Aaron Judge, was he going to have an MVP campaign? He certainly can. He's capable of it, but he put together a healthy season and did just that. And so, it's all about the expectations. Kyle Tucker, if he has like a top 10 season, how many people are thinking of that? Now, the second part of the equation is how many people care. So we'll see how that plays out. Don Mattingly, 84. Don Russ, top of the range, coming off back in the middle of the range. It seems like if you get closer to $150 on that card, 170, something like that, maybe a better spot to go after it. And Big Don in the PSA 5, so it's a $350 card. Not a lot of activity on that until recently. There's kind of flatline. It seems like that is the price if you're super patient. Maybe something closer to the low 200s or something like that is the price on that. So, all right, we'll look at football here. Patty Mahomes, he's got a game this weekend here. He has had this compression for a while that we've been watching, and he finally broke out of it. Now he's just kind of retesting that, and so we'll see how that goes. Got a range downside 3.15 thousand, upside about $4,600, and so that measures up to at $1,500, around $6,000, which would bring it up to this area of resistance, at some point here. So we'll see how that, see if it gets there. That's just the technical target. It doesn't have to happen or anything like that. It's a $4,000 card right now. So, but for the most part right now, you're just in a consolidation. So that's the way it is until it isn't. But if it breaks out, then you're looking at, potential $1,500 range. Either direction, this is the Optic Hollow in the PSA 10, kind of the same thing. You've got your range set up here, broken down trend, and so a lot of buying on this one. So if it breaks up or down, you're looking at about $1,000 either way on that card. So I think something would have to go really wrong for it to become a $500 card again. But weirder things have happened. But $3,500 would be your upside at some point here. Jalen Hurts with a nice pop here, still grinding upwards, top of the range coming off here, so it's kind of in the middle. I mean, he's about as relevant as he's going to be for a while. So I think for all these guys, it might just be kind of a wait and see. Travis Kelce with the downtrend broken, so he's got a slight uptrend going here. So we like breaking out of these downward trends here. So he'll retest whatever, but he'll continue to perhaps get some love if he has a big game this weekend. But we're very close to the offseason on a lot of these guys, so again, they may be in just wait and see mode. Tom Brady, Bowman Chrome with a breakout on this one here, so retesting it, so maybe a decent spot to buy. We've got a technical target of roughly $3,000 to $4,000. Doesn't mean it has to get there or anything like that. I like this buying cluster for the most part, $6,000 to $7,000, and we kind of got in there. So again, that breakout is a bullish development. See if it can hang on to the, when you retest is kind of when you want to go after some of those, and that's where we're at right now. So the retirement news front and center. When he gets into the booth next year, he'll still be relevant in the minds, and then you've got Hall of Fame in a few years here. So again, risk reward sets up favorably on that card, but again, it wouldn't surprise me if it fell back in because it's so lately traded, so there's not a lot of volume on those. I mean, relative to where we were kind of in these other areas, it's like just take this with a grain of salt. We're just having some fun here. Bowman Chrome Base PSA 10. Look at it another way here, and it's like, well, the downtrend's still kind of intact. So a couple ways to look at these things. So we could say, hey, look, it had its downtrend, it's broken out, it's retesting, or you can say, it's just a gentler decline, and again, we can draw these lines however you want to fit whatever narrative you want for the most part. I have no agenda here. Aaron Rodgers. $1,650 card here. Looks like it may want to make its way down to that $1.25 for the most part. A lot of buying in that one here, so we'll see how that plays out. But his counterpart is going to have a job next year. Is getting some love, matched at least recent highs on this one, got rejected, and so this upward compression, as long as it stays in there, could make it about a $300 card at some point. But he's gonna have to do something to prove that. It's not going to go there just on people chasing it or anything like that. So, yeah, we'll see. A lot of interest in this area here. So breaking bad and then breaking good. So we'll again, remains to be seen here. And Derek Carr maybe on the move here. And his prices are about as cheap as they've been for a while. So we'll see how that plays out with him in a new spot. But at least there's general excitement and speculation while people moving places here. And he's in an area where people have been willing to buy in the past here. And Russell Wilson continues his downtrend, top of the range. So risk reward does not set up favorably for him. Joey B. Right at resistance as well. So we'll see. I keep saying we'll see. Yeah, because we will see. I don't know. So we'll just have to see how it goes. This is where telling has taken place in the past. Will it happen again? He's a little bit irrelevant here. He's kind of ping-ponging between that $2K and that $3,000 mark here. So we're at the top end of that range. See if that's all she wrote, or if he breaks out and get a little bit of chasing on that one here. But for me, that's a watch. LeBron James. your new all-time scoring leader. If he keeps this up for a couple more years, I might have to put him in my top 10 for the NBA. So, yeah, well, whatever. Downtrend broken. Retest. It's still a slight downtrend. Top of the range and coming off just a little bit here. So, front and center, a lot of action on the court in the middle of a game, I guess. And so people are buying his cards. But you'll have to, I don't know, keep adding to that title or something like that. I don't know. You'd like to see him break out of this slight downtrend before doing anything too seriously with this stuff here. Kevin Durant, same thing, top of the range and coming after just a little bit. He also on the move. And Kyrie moving. Everyone's moving. Kyrie with a little breakout here, so we'll see if that holds. But this has been rejected multiple times in the past, and so if that is able to hold with a couple sales, you could start to see a little bit more upside in his cards there. So. Same thing with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar potentially. So lightly traded. Take it with a grain of salt. But maybe leaking out of the range here. This is about as low prices you've seen for a while on that. And so that is his PSA 6. Maybe that's enough to get it going here. Magic Johnson and Julius Erving and Larry Bird. So three pretty good players there. Continuing their downtrend here. So not a lot of news around them or anything like that. So. Out of sight, out of mind, I guess. But again, this is an area where things are starting to perk up. But you'd like to see him break out like some of those other guys to keep it going here. All right, some hockey here. Jack Hughes, downtrend, broken right around recent highs. Gets up here, gets a little bit frothy. So see if he can sustain it. But $300 card, and you look at some other young guns of people of his talent. There's 600, 700, 800. So at some point, maybe that's what it becomes. It was for a few minutes there, but yeah, it ended up trying, but top of the range, so maybe worth waiting a bit on that one. Cale Makar, bottom of the range in an area of support, so maybe setting up better than some other players here. Sidney Crosby, Sid the Kid, gentle downtrend, closer to the bottom of the range than the top here. So once it gets too much higher than this, it gets a little bit thin and it's sold quickly, so careful on that one, but it does set up okay, I guess. Alexander Ovechkin, top of the range, coming off here again in an area where there's been some buying in the past here. But if you're patient, maybe you get it for sub 5K or something like that. And Mario Lemieux, top of the range, a lot of buying all the way here. So we could continue to have a slight. People could continue to buy it all the way down here, so that's it's still a slight downtrend, but again compressing, but it's the risk reward sets up unfavorably in the near term. And Jason Robertson, we had a kind of a sell rate in this area on this one. It's like, well, it could keep going. It's so thin, who knows? And it kept going. That's what happens sometimes. But you just run out of buyers, and now you're returning to the scene of the crime. So if you're a longer term believer on this on Jason Robertson, then you're coming into an area where you may want to start picking up a few of his cards. So all right, do a little real world stuff here that may have an impact on our hobby purchasing. So here's Bitcoin relative to the US dollar, tagging its longer term moving average at the top of its range. It's still on a buy signal, so we'll see if it can't break out. But risk reward sets up unfavorably, and I think people want to see that breakout to really get that risk appetite going. I think there's a decent correlation between some of those riskier assets and the people speculating in cards. You have a lot of similar buyers on that one. And so if this is a pause, then a lot of those cards that we're seeing that kind of at the top of their range, maybe there's a pause there as well. There's going to be some things that work, but you just have to work harder to find them. Ethereum has broken out of its range here, so we've got some resistance coming up, but for the most part, it's starting to outperform the S&P. So some risk assets are starting to work. So like everything else, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Some things are going to work, some things maybe they don't work as much here. But that breakout is good as long as it can hold it here. Housing starts bottom of the range. Breaking out of this, that's more of a recession indicator here. So you really need to hang on. If it starts to leak out, here's 2020. You had the financial crisis, and so. A breakdown in housing starts would be kind of a bad sign. Recession would also be bad for people and their discretionary income to buy cards. And so we had a former Fed official, Janet Yellen, come out a few days ago and say, well, with unemployment this low, it doesn't mean there's no way you can have a recession. It kind of means the opposite. It means every time employment gets this low, you have a recession. Whenever you see these drops, that has pretended to a recession in the historically. You can go back to the 50s and 60s on that one. And so here we are again. You have a lot of people leaving the labor force. You have a million people taking unemployment because their sit-at-home checks have run out. We've got a highly inverted yield curve, and so recession likely in the cards. The question remains, what kind of recession will we have? Gasoline sitting at support, and so a breakdown. Economically, kind of a bad thing, but it's going to put more money into people's pockets. Maybe that would be not a bad thing, I guess. So, mortgage, 30-year mortgage rates, we had this area highlighted for a reversal, and we're seeing that. And so, if people are able to refinance or pay a little less in interest, and again, they'll have a little bit more discretionary income for other things going forward. The PPI producer index, not exactly CPI, the consumer price index, but this is a little bit more accurate representation as it takes the first sale of goods and it combines those into an index. And so what are they actually getting for these things here? So you're seeing it roll over, and that's been recessionary in the past. Mini recession in the end of 2018, Q4, the first Q of 2020. We had quick recession indicators, and it's recovered, but you can look at the sideways consolidation in the markets in a mini near recession in 14, 15, 16. And so we're starting to roll over again. Momentum is coming off. And so it's not necessarily disaster or anything like that, but just another potential indicator. Volatility sitting at the bottom of its range and starting to tick up just a little bit here, and so that could put a spook into markets, including ours. And so I think that's all I got for you on this one here. Anyways, recession doesn't have to be end of the world or anything like that, but if people tighten their belts, you look at credit cards, they're at some of the, credit card spending, credit card revolving debt is at some of their highest levels ever. And so, people are just getting a little bit tapped, although you wouldn't really notice that looking at the sales of some of the recent boxes on Tops.com. So those are getting snapped up very, very quickly. And so, people either they're putting a lot on their credit cards and they're saying to heck with it, they're just going to put on more, or again, people have just said, what, it's a recession. I'm prepared for it, and let's live our lives. So that's what I got for you. Have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.